you gave it another half star, did you?
On top of what I gave it like a few years ago, yeah. I've already worked out the average, don't worry.
You've already worked out the average. Well, I can hazard a guess what the average is going to be.
Oh, what is it, Theo? Yes.
It's easy.
Hello and welcome to the Big Screen Podcast. I'm Will and today I'm joined with...
Me.
Who are you?
You know me.
Theodore?
Maybe.
Well, we are back. Surprisingly, for the first time in 5 months, we are recording together for the first upload in 3 months. We are returning to our Series 1 formats. We're now into Series 4. We kind of gave up with Series 3. Apologies. I do think that was a pretty strong series, if I do say so myself.
It was a big ask.
It was a big ask, like doing all those franchise reviews. Like if you looked at our original schedule, it was like one a month. In those videos per month, we had to review like 5 things. And then in the Halloween franchise reviews that we had lined up, we had about 5, 6, 7 films to review across 2 episodes. And I was like, we cannot do this. And then we scrapped it all. And then we gave up. And then we got complacent, and then we had a video blow up, and then we got complacent again, and didn't act on it. But we're back now to justify the cost of RSS podcasting, which distributes our podcast onto Spotify and Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, or whatever it is, because I've been paying that subscription fee for like the last 3, 4, 5 months, while I've been paying for it for like a year now. But like we haven't been uploading, we haven't been doing anything. So to justify those 3 or 4 months, we're going to do 6 episodes across 6 months, and we're going to put them out, and it's going to be worth the money, I hope. But we're back. We spun a wheel as per our Series 1 format, and basically the concept of this series, well, the concept of this channel, as me and Michael first conceived it, was to introduce our friend to a movie, to several movies, in fact, that we both enjoy and dislike, and that other person would not have seen it before. So this was my choice. I say it's my choice. We put several movies onto a wheel, didn't we? And then we spun it, and that's what we did. So Theo has 3, I have 3. How it landed, I go first and then Theo goes last. Also Theo goes second, I go penultimate, whatnot. So this is my good choice. Theo might disagree with that. But the wheel span to Collateral. Believe it or not, the first Tom Cruise film in a row that we are reviewing on this channel. Theodore, go away. Take it away, should I say?
Go away? Jeez, we're there for 5 minutes.
Theo, take it away.
So, Collateral is a film that stars Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx, and is about a cab driver who finds himself mixed up in some dirty business and now has to traverse the streets of generic American town and survive the night.
And did he survive the night? Well, that's your spoiler warning. Of course, with all these episodes, if you don't want to know the spoilers of the film, please stop watching now. I realise that a little disclaimer at the top of the description isn't always good enough, and you should always put a little disclaimer in the video, so that's what we're doing now. So, Collateral, of course you have never seen it before until now. Brief thoughts before we actually take a deep dive into it?
It was boring. It was alright, but I just found it boring. Like, I'm not going to watch it again.
Oh, man. Well, there were little moments where I thought, okay, I kind of understand where Theo's going with this, but then something happened and then things just fell into place, and I thought, that was all worth it. Like for example, let's take a deep dive into it right now. The jazz scene, the jazz man.
Yeah.
That whole scene, it was conceptualized by saying, oh, we're ahead of schedule. Do you like jazz? To quote the B-movie. Do you like jazz? And I thought, maybe the writer is just like, how do we pad this movie out? That's what I thought first, because I forgot the plot of this film. Well, I didn't forget the plot, I just forgot what happened in it. So when he took this diversion, I was like, okay, we've had 2 or 3 murders in the first half hour. There's going to be 6. How do we fill out the last hour and a half? And I thought, okay, this is going to be it. But then it took the turn in the jazz room, and I thought, okay, so yes, it was a little bit of a divergence, but I actually went somewhere because it was another death, and I thought, okay, that justified the 10 minutes we were in there before anything actually happened. Like in the club scene later, when they're going through the club, I was like, okay, this is getting a slightly bit boring, but then we get to the shooey, LAPD, FBI shootout with Tom Cruise's character Vincent, and I was like, you know what, that 10 minutes was worth it. It just fell into place, and I was like, you know what, I like that, even though bits before I could kind of understand where you're coming from. That's the film summed up for me. Things happened, which you said privately. Things happened. You just said things happened. People walked about, and I understand. But the plot all came together, and like in the final 10 minutes, like little threads were wrapped up, and I was like, that is neat.
Like, to give credit where credit's due, that jazz scene is probably like the only scene I enjoyed in the film, just because of the like conversation and like the build up of it was quite nice, even though I could barely hear it. I don't know if it's just my TV. I have my TV sound on theatre mode, which is meant for films, and the talking would be like this the whole film, and then bang, 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 and it's like, and it was like, what? So I constantly was on the volume control, trying to like judge when it was going to happen. So other than that, it was a pretty good scene, and yeah, the killing is my favorite death in the film, because it's just so abrupt and really grounded.
Yeah.
That it was really, like, the other one's like a bit more theatrical, like the guy getting thrown through a window, the massive shootout in the club. Like, all that is very theatrical and like big spectacle. But that one, something about that one just felt like a bit, not dirty in the like the wrong way, but just felt a bit, you know, a bit dirty, a bit grounded, a bit like off-putting. I felt I was like, Jesus Christ, like this guy was just living his life, and then a split second, and it's just his life is extinguished. And like him just casually shooting him off, and then like going, all right, next up. I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah. But like the build up to that, where his face completely drops and his rested face was like, oh shit, I'm in the mud. I will run away from you. You scare me. I acknowledge this. I will run.
You see Jamie Foxx click that as well. Like you see when they're talking back and forwards, like initially he gets into the conversation, he's smiling. And then when the face kind of drops, you can see him looking confused.
He looks to Vincent and he's like, oh crap, what's going on? As we see Vincent looking out into the kitchen to see the barmaids go around the back and stuff like that, yeah.
And then he just runs off. It's like, oh shit! Like that's probably the best scene in the film for me.
Yeah,
like, that scene was just great, like a masterclass of editing, acting, and like film making.
I absolutely agree, and like the filmmaking in this, in my opinion, is sensational. It's because there's so many visually pleasing things to look at. For example, I don't know if you noticed it, but when Jamie Foxx is in with the drug realm in the club, when he's pretending to be Vincent.
In the club.
When he's pretending to be Vincent, trying to get the information back. There's this scene where it's the over-the-head shoulder shot towards the drug cartier or whatever the hell he is. It's subtle, but you can see it. The camera slowly zooms in, but it's kind of juddery, just as the drug guy is like banging his finger on the table. And I liked how that was kind of in sync with the camera kind of juddering forward, zooming into him. It's stuff like that. And like at the start, have you ever seen the movie Lock?
No.
I think it's got Tom Hardy in it. And I was like, when you said to me this film was boring, I was like, okay, fair enough. And then I watched this film. And I was like, if you want to see a boring film set in a car, go watch Lock. There is nothing...
I'm gonna love Lock. Huh?
You're going to love Lock, exactly. A lot of people do. But basically there's less things to look at in that film than this film. So I was like, I don't understand what he's kind of getting from this, because Paul Greengrass, the director, notorious for his handheld footage. And speaking of Paul Greengrass, I didn't even realise this, he directed the Bourne films, right? Or at least 2 of them. And a lot of
that explains way too much.
A lot of the first few scenes in this film reminded me of Jason Bourne, and a lot of the stylistic choices with how it was shot, all the close-ups, the handheld shakiness of the camera, and I was like, okay, this is reminded me of Bourne, this reminded me of Paul Greengrass, and I like how it's all in handheld. Like there's all these overproduced movies, and this could have been so self-centered, so serious. But I think having it handheld kind of gave it a more grounded feel. Like when Jamie Foxx is going around the city, he goes to the gas station, he goes to the corner shop, he has these interactions with people. It's all handheld, and I just think I really appreciate that. My ultimate point is there's so much going on. The pacing and the editing is so snappy. You have barely any time to think about what's going on. It's just showing you and it's moving on. There's a unnecessary but brilliant close-up of the key being zapped through to get through the turnstile, and I was like, you know what, that is straight out of Jason Bourne.
See, now I'm going to do the exact flip side, and I actually don't agree with you in a lot of these sense.
Okay.
Whilst I do appreciate handheld like camera and what it can do for a film, making it feel grounded, I feel at points it was too much. Like, I haven't seen Jason Bourne, but what I have seen of Jason Bourne, all the fights look shit in the first one, just because it's so shaky, it's all over the place, and it's really hard to focus. And for this film, at points I was like, okay, it's nice having a handheld, but sometimes it's a bit much. Like, you can have a bit too much handheld at times. And obviously, you know, I've said this film for me was slow, so a bit of the editing felt, I don't know. There were snappy points, like we said, the jazz scene, and I do remember the car being slapped on the thing. That's like a very vivid shot in my head from the film. But they they paced out the film with a lot of unnecessary things. I feel like I don't know how many times we needed to see a drone shot of the road.
Yeah,
like we see that same goddamn segment of like city in the exact same shot like 5 separate times. And each time I was like, right, I get it. We're in a city like New York or Manhattan. Why are you showing me this when we've literally got half an hour left of the film? I know where we are.
I think it was just to kind of emphasize the scale and like the isolatingness, because there's a large part of this film. A large part of this film is like soul searching, and it's at the beginning and it's towards the end as well, and I get that. But there's a conversation in the car where it's like, Vincent's character, and Vincent says something like that: all these people, there's no connection. I want to get out of this city because nobody here knows each other. So I think that's the kind of point of it, to show the isolatedness. Like, they're small, they're insignificant. That's like the second heart they have before he crashes the car. I think that was probably the point, I would say. But I did notice,
I get what they were trying to do, but it was too much for me. And like, they established that in the first like 10 minutes for me. Like, when he's going around and you see him like taxiing other normal pedestrians in the back of the car, I was like, okay, so we've established that he doesn't really, you know, get the time to know anybody. It's all very just job here, job there, look at the picture, go around, get a shot of the massive city, then we see like go through traffic. And that bit I was still like invested. I was like, okay, I don't mind a film that takes its time to set up, and I like how it's setting up. I understand this guy's life, I understand what like gets him through the day. And then when we see the lawyer character, I thought, okay, this is nice, because now it's kind of breaking that mold. But then it keeps doing that, and I feel like I got the gist. I understood what this film was trying to say about living in a big city, and the like aminosity. I don't know, that the big word that comes with a big city. That like you never meet the same person twice, most likely. And having the lawyer person come back at the right end was quite a nice touch, because like, well, sometimes, and there was the whole thing about the stars aligning and like destiny, and that was nice. But I just feel like it kept on so many times trying to say this is a big city, and I'm like, yeah, I got that. You don't need to show me the same drone shot 5 times every time they fucking drive.
Yeah, I do get the point, because I watched Michael Bay's Ambulance, and it came out this year. Have you seen that?
No, I do. I thought the trailer looked alright, and then I saw your review and it put me off it.
Yeah, effectively the editing and the camera angles of that film is this film, but 10 times more overbearing. So when I was watching this film, I was like, okay, so this is Ambulance, but nice. I thought, this is Ambulance, but nice to look at, nice feel. I don't feel the editing was ever overbearing. I do acknowledge there were quite a few drone shots, but it was never really distracting for me. About the repetitiveness of them, I kind of thought that about the character. I was like, so we've done this before, we've hit this beat before, but we're doing it again, but we still have to get some character to Vincent. Well, it's nice to have a bit of animosity between the pair. You can't overdo it. 2 scenes, 2 moments of conflict, one on the bridge, one in the car. I thought that was perfect. I thought, spread those scenes out with some, humorous moments. I thought the scene with the mother in the hospital was brilliant. With Jamie Foxx saying, Mud, or you can't keep pretending I'm not in the room. And then the mother says to Vincent, what did he say? And then Vincent says, oh, he's in the room. And then the mother says, yes, you are, dear. I was like, that's such a funny scene. Like, seeing Jamie Foxx's reactions to that, and, how that kind of fed back into the final conflict where he crashes the car towards the end. It's like, oh, I'm never good enough for my mother, but here you are in the back of my car, relying on me, and you're saying I'm insignificant. I like the parallels between those, and I don't think it ever got too overbearing. I don't think it hit the same note more than twice, and I appreciate that. Like, you could have gave too much information about this assassin, but you don't get that. And like the criminals, do you understand the plot with the criminals?
Sorry, my mum's with me.
If I told you that, if I asked you to tell me what the deal is with the criminals, would you get it? Would you be able to tell me? Okay, yeah. So towards the end, it's,
but I don't understand what each character. I think they're all witnesses to something.
Exactly. So you know the court case that's
I know. I know the big twist.
Yeah, she is the lawyer. She is the lawyer. They're all witnesses, and he has to kill off the witnesses to protect the defendant, I suppose. And then the final one to kill was the lawyer, which I found quite on the nose in terms. You said it was nice. I thought it was on the nose a little bit, where he was just about to be arrested, and then he looks into the cab, he sees the screen, and his lover's picture is on it.
The reveal is sloppy. I will admit, the reveal was very sloppy, but I still like the tie around. Like, if this film is trying to say that you'll pass someone on the street and you'll never see him again, but then it ends up that it is someone you've met before. I like that being like a through thread, but him seeing the screen whilst being arrested, I was like, okay, that's pretty shit. There could have been, there's got to be an easier way to do that. And Tom Cruise's character would have known because he saw the lawyer cut, and he was like, oh, what's that? Is that some girl?
I think that might be why he encouraged him to call her. Like, life is short, one of us might not see another day, and I think that was like making the connection to her. Like, she might not see another day, life is short.
But Vincent is Vincent's a very confusing character. I know you're saying before this that there's a bunch of deep dives into the character of Vincent, but I just really didn't understand why he was doing this. I understand what he was doing. He was cleaning up like a case, he was getting rid of witnesses, he was getting rid of the lawyer, but I didn't understand his motivation. And I thought like, oh, he's just doing it because he gets paid. You know, he's a hitman, he's doing it to get paid. But then when his briefcase is thrown over the edge and all the money goes everywhere, I thought, oh shit, this is like a turning point. This has got to be like the climax of the film. Nope, they just get back in the taxi and they act like nothing happened. And I was like, so his goal is not money? Because I would have been pissed if that was my money after I just killed a bunch of people.
I didn't realize it was money. I thought it was just papers.
I thought, no, because when he flings it in the air, money flies everywhere, and that's why he gets pissed. So if this guy's all about just, killing the people to get the paycheck, then why is he so like, oh, I'm going to keep this cabbie because I like it? No, just shoot the cabbie and get a different cabbie. Because then you have then you tie that loose. I don't know. I just felt like him sticking with Jamie Foxx was a bad choice, because then there was obviously they could track him. They ran into the police before. They knew that he was like, I don't know, they wanted him to be the fall guy. Like, that was Vincent's plan, to be like, oh yeah, Jamie Foxx's character, he did all this, I was just a poor passenger. But then at like points where he really screws over his plan, you think you just shoot him and then get another cabbie and just don't tell him what's going on. Just go, yeah, can you take me to this building? Because they're not going to ask. They don't know you. This Vincent was a very muddled character.
It was a conflicting character, and I do agree. There was a moment towards the end. I'm trying to kind of gauge what the filmmakers are going for with this character, what the writer is going for. Maybe he is meant to be this ruthless assassin, but towards the end you could kind of see the flaws in his game. Like towards the end when... Is it Annie? Yeah.
I don't remember any of the names.
Max, Annie, Vincent. Those are
Max. Because Jamie Foxx plays another speckled character with the name Max.
Yeah. But, towards the end I realised, okay, maybe Vincent's trying to be portrayed as this flawed character, because, for example, when Annie is on the phone, what Vincent does is goes to the basement and cuts off all the power. But when doing so, he also cuts off the lights. And you could interpret that as, oh, he's cutting off the lights to make it more intimidating, which would be the easy thing to say. However, if you think about it, maybe it was being counterproductive, because he now has to find her in the dark, which isn't good. And then I think that it kind of built on that in the very next scene where Annie runs away with Max, and then he throws the chair through the glass, and then he falls over the chair when he goes through the glass. And I kind of interpret that as like the filmmakers trying to make him come across as like this bumbling idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he's this really smug character. Like in the club scene, after he shoots all those people, he winks at Max, and then he has a smirk on his face. I thought, yeah, you know what? That's a really nice shot there. You know, personification of his character. But then towards the end, he started making these mistakes. And then at the very end, he, loses all his bullets and then he dies. And I just thought, I think that's what they were going with this character. Yes, throughout this film, he's been seen as this guy who's in control. I wouldn't say he's in control, because there's a lot of times where Max, Jamie Foxx's character, kind of has some pushback, and then all we kind of get from Vincent in response to that is, oh, since when has it been a choice, stuff like that. But we never actually see him be dominant over him. Maybe in the bridge scene where he pins him down after he's thrown the briefcase, but that's about
even
it.
Then, he's like if he was truly in charge, he wouldn't have done that in the first place. That was a shit. That was a dick move, and he was like, "Well, guess that's just happened." Yeah, I make the decisions around here. I was like, "Well, no, you don't."
Yeah, I do think a bit more could have been done to make him a little bit more menacing. Yes, we get he's a sharpshooter, but that's about it.
Yeah. Also, can we just talk about his death quickly?
Yeah, sure.
I think it was so bad.
I like how he kind of did the round trip to the 6 hours. Nobody noticed he's dead, and
yeah,
he dies.
That was good. I like that. When they've ended with him still on the train, I like that.
Yeah.
But the edit, when they're on the train, the chase was okay. But when they got to the shootout, the editing was so sporadic that I couldn't understand a single thing that was going on. They were I knew they were just shooting at the door. And that was kind of the gist, but I couldn't follow who I was watching shoot through the door, who was getting all the shots off. And then when it's revealed that he's dying, I felt it was very underwhelming. Have you seen Seven Samurai?
I haven't, no.
I think they were trying to go with this. There's a scene in Seven Samurai, which is an amazing film, by the way.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where this guy is going to be the head Well, he's being led on. He's like, "Oh yeah, fight me, go on. Yeah, you won't, you coward." And then when he fights him, he does the typical samurai, slices his middle belly. And then you don't know he's dead until he falls on the ground. Yeah. You know that typical trope of samurai and westerns?
I get that, yeah.
I feel like they were trying to do that with the whole, oh, you don't know if he's been shot. Oh, he's fallen over, he's been shot. Oh shit. But I was just no, I didn't follow any of that, what was going on. From my perspective, I thought they were just shooting a door.
Yeah, to be fair, that was quite odd. I think a lot of that shot was Jamie Foxx's perspective shooting at Vincent.
But I still, again, if the editor question it, then I don't like it. If I have to be sat there wait, who am I watching? Then I think it's not a good job. If I can clearly be okay, this is Vincent, this is Max, then I'm I'm on board. But as soon as I'm who's what? Okay, I'm I can't do it.
That wasn't the best 5 seconds of the film.
Because the only character he has kind of remorse for someone dying for is the detective, and that's purely because of the fact the detective was hi, I'm on your side, I'm going to get you out of the situation. And then he dies, and he's like, what the hell, man? Why'd you kill him? He was a nice guy, and he's all distraught.
You said the jazz man's death was your favourite.
Yeah.
I actually think that LAPD FBI guy was my favourite death, Just because how he was shot, because Jamie Foxx's character comes out of the club, a lot of people walk past, there's a great depth of focus, and you kind of see the distance between Jamie Foxx's character and this detective. So when the shot comes from behind Jamie Foxx, you think, oh shit, this is how it was always meant to be, because look at the distance between this LAPD character and Jamie Foxx. It's meant to show that he's far away and he's closer to Tom Cruise's character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When he's shot, they're far away, and when the camera cuts to the wide shot, you can clearly see he's right next to the taxi, and very far, and the shot just before shows him very far away from the guy who was there to protect him. So I think that was, the stars aligning in moment. That kind of gave me the impression that they were meant to be together. And then it talks about the aligned stars and whatnot and all that crap. So it's yeah, that's another example of things falling into place for me. And I'd say that's probably my favourite death, just because of how it was shot and pieced together.
So I did like the abruptness of them just leaving the club. And it's okay, they're outside the room. And then all of a sudden just Mark Ruffalo's character just dies, and it's oh shit.
Yeah.
This character we've been following for the past hour or so just dies like that. No fan service, no big moment. It literally just, he gets shot outside the door and he's left on the ground.
And then the music cuts off and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's in the best way. It's really disrespectful to the character in the best way.
Yeah.
They stand up he's the detective, he's gonna figure out everything, he's gonna solve everything, and then he's just shot.
Because you get all these cutaways to pad out the story and whatever, and then when he gets shot, that's the end of it. No one gives a shit about the police investigation anymore because he is dead. And
Like-
then we get all these close-up shots of Jamie Foxx in the cab, like really showing his, defeatedness, and that kind of drives him to crash the car, I suppose. But then Vincent's words just pushed him over the edge.
So that was like the equivalent of, say, like if this was a Batman film, that'd be the equivalent of like Commissioner Gordon dying.
Yeah.
And if you know if it was in a Batman film, it'd be a big thing. He'd be sat there giving a speech as he's bleeding out, and for some reason everything around him would just stop, and then you'd have like 10 minutes just to do this massive dialogue dump. But no, he's just shot and he's dead. Like, it's very real and it's very uneasy. Like the feeling that anyone but the main two characters could just die and they're out of the film that quickly.
So you liked the tone of this film, would you say?
I felt like the tone at times was a bit muddled. Like they tried to do some comedy like parts to it, which didn't really work.
I think I know what you're on about. You know the jazz scene where the jazz man dies? When Jamie Foxx's character kind of chimes in with a quip, the music stops, and then when we cut back, hard cut to the jazz man speaking again with his dropped face and whatnot, you can hear like the music be faded in. It was an interesting technique. Maybe it got a little muddled with the comedy because it didn't make me laugh.
Yeah.
Before we did start this recording, you did criticize the music.
It's just like there's no memorable score.
The only scene that really stands out for me in terms of music is the club scene. It's the really repetitive music when he's shooting all these people.
So it's club music.
Yeah, it's not an original soundtrack, I don't think, but it's not too loud. It's been mixed really well. It gets in your brain. It's infectious. So it's like John Wick. Have you seen John Wick?
Yes.
When John Wick walks into a club and starts shooting people, you have this distinct sound, the club music that's over and repetitive and over and repetitive. You get the point. And this film does exactly the same, but like 15 years earlier. And I do respect it because, and I do respect this film a lot because there are quite a few techniques with like the glass in the cab, how they shoot with the glass. I think it is quite. Is pioneering the right word? It's just a few things I noticed in newer films that I wouldn't have seen in films from like the 90s. And this film was what, 2004? 2007? One of the two. So it's like there's this distinct soul in this film that is clearly being copied in the future, and I think it does a really great job. And like it wraps up my original point, is there is so much going on in this film to look at that I just can't understand why you would be bored. You'd be like, oh, there's that thing. Oh, they shot that really well. As filmmakers, I know we're not filmmakers, we're filmmaking students. But like Batman, we both liked Batman because there was so much going on to look at, and I think this film is no different.
I have to heavily disagree with you there because Batman did not feel like a 3-hour film. This felt like a 3-hour film, if you know what I mean. Like this, I felt
a 2-hour film feeling like a 3-hour film. That must be bad.
I was like, I just want not in the best way possible. I just wanted it to be done. Like,
Ooh.
I don't know if it was like I wasn't tea, but I had like I was cooking tea at the same time, which I thought would make it quickly, because when you're like timing shit, then you're like, I was focusing on the film. Don't worry, I wasn't.
Where are you now? You said you were on the phone for half the film.
Oh yeah, I was on my film.
I'm
after
exposing you.
But like I was watching it and I was cooking tea, and like I had a really bad tea, so I was a bit like pissed off because I didn't really cook it that great.
Oh, okay.
And then like someone buzzed on the door, and I had to go figure like neighbor problems again.
Yeah.
But I was just like, every time I paused it, I'd come back to it and I'd be like, shit, there's still an hour left. Like fuck me. Like I think I like took just breaks where I would just go into my room, like decompress, go to the toilet, come back out, and then tackle it again. If I had to sit there and if I was in a cinema, I don't think I could handle it. Like if I had to sit there and watch it, I don't think I could do it. Damn. If I didn't have my phone or anything. Whereas with the Batman, I feel like I did it twice. I watched it twice in cinema. So
I watched it like 2 or 3 times, I think. But yeah, it's like halfway through the film when we've got this new thing of, they've switched the narrative up, they flipped on its head. So now Max is going to pretend he's Vincent. He walks into this club thing, and then we cut to, unknowingly, the LAPD or the FBI or whoever they're supposed to be going into this warehouse. And then up until we see the faces of Mark Ruffalo and that lot, I thought it was Jamie Foxx's character, but then it's revealed and I think, oh, okay, that's visually interesting because the cut is seamless. The sets like fit together because of how it's put together, how it's lit. But again, when that scene was probably on, you're probably having a go at your neighbours?
No. Well, I paused it. I paused if I had to do something that I knew I wouldn't be able to focus on. Like if I was like changing something out in the oven, or if I had to go do neighbours, I would pause the TV and I'd come back to it. I wouldn't just be like, I'll leave it running and go to the door. I'd pause it and then go.
Fair.
So I definitely didn't miss. I didn't miss a single goddamn
But
thing.
to be fair, would you say it felt like a 3-hour film because it probably was a 3-hour sit-in with all the distractions?
No, it felt like every time I come back to it, it somehow had more. There was somehow just more of it. Like I feel like okay, we're wrapping up a bit, and then I'll look at the time and be like, shit, we've got another hour left.
All right. Were there any standout scenes, performances, or bits of dialogue in this film that you would like to make a note of?
Well, obviously we've talked about the jazz scene. We've discussed Vince and like all the kind of characters. So
Yeah.
we've kind of tackled that as far as it goes.
Fair enough. Before we go into the conclusions, we have to do what, Theo?
Overview.
No, the audience interaction section.
Oh yeah.
I put out a tweet, I messaged my mate Connor, and I put out...
You put out a tweet, I messaged my mate, so I have one review to share today.
No, I put out where we got quite a few responses. Michael Wilson said, really good movie. The first time I can remember Cruise really playing against type and nailing it. You really get a sense of menace from him. I completely agree. When he shoots everyone up in the club, that little smirk, that was the scene where I was like, yes, Tom Cruise, fair play. Fox proved himself very capable of leading a big action film. I agree. The direction was understandably brilliant and the transporter cameo was fun. John, lasagna from a peach tree dish. I like that, Petrie. Science. I didn't kill him. The bullets and the fall killed him. Great line. Ben, real enthusiast, said, I have. In response to me saying, has anyone seen it? He says, and I think it's bloody phenomenal. Honestly, one of Cruise's best performances. It's nice to see him play a villain.
Joe Deacon on Letterboxd says, I really don't get the hate for Tom Cruise. I've always felt he was really charismatic and a dedicated actor, which makes his performance in Collateral really wait, what? What the fuck? In Collateral, really interesting because I'm not used to seeing him as the bad guy, but he's great at it. Very tense film, and there is something about the fact that it takes place all in one night, which gives it a lot of urgency and forward momentum. I also love the look of the film, as the LA nighttime aesthetic gives the film a really vibrant look. And this might sound a bit random, but between this and Heat, Michael Mann really knows how to do gunshot sound effects, and he gave it a 4.
I think Jane nails that, to be fair. I completely agree with that, and I think I touched on quite a few of the points.
Technically, if the gunshots were accurate, they would all be deaf. So...
Well... Connor said, mate, I love Collateral. I was randomly thinking about watching later on today at some point. Quite the coincidence. Right, so on Letterboxd, of course, you read out Joe DeCon's.
That was the only one for me, I could say.
Oh, okay. Well... Dan_Z_1 gave it a 5-star review. Harry Membry gave it a 3.5-star review. Joe DeCon gave it a 4-star, of course. Helis gave it a 4-star. Off the Cuff Reviews gave it a 3-star. George Papart gave it a 4-star. Cole Oakley gave it a 3.5-star. And 8 Bean Soup gave it a 3.5-star. Theo, would you like to wrap up with your conclusion and score?
Overall, I'm not watching this film again anytime soon. I just found it incredibly slow for what it was. It did have nice moments, I will give it that. And I just felt like there are films that are out now that do a better job, like John Wick, for example. I feel like that just does what this film was trying to do, but better. So yeah, that's my conclusion. I give it a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10?
Oh wait, no, 4 out of 10 even.
Bloody hell, I was going to say, hell no. You're not running with that one. Yeah, 2 out of 5 stars for Collateral for Theo.
2 out of 5.
I think this is on par with John Wick, I would say. I think this is quite an incredible film. The performances across the board are rather brilliant. I enjoyed the lighting, I enjoyed the direction quite a bit. All the narrative threads wrapped up perfectly in a bow in the final 20-25 minutes, which I appreciated. There are parallels, there were motifs in the score. I know we criticised the score and there was no memorable moments, but I did notice little motifs when Tom Cruise would walk in. It was kind of like a western vibe, which Theo did allude to earlier, but in a different context. So perhaps that was intentional, perhaps not, but I give it a 4 out of 5 star rating. Yes, and Theo's dead. There is some noise, so I'm going to see what's going on.
My boy's gonna. It's Vincent. He's coming to get you. Vincent, the bleach-tipped killer who looks surprisingly like Vanilla Ice, is coming to get you.
Right, safe to say you weren't a fan.
Nope.
However, what are we reviewing next week? Your first quote-unquote good film.
The Lone Ranger.
Well, that will be done next month. Theo, I'm sorry for picking such a dreadful film to you to watch.
I will never forgive you for this.
But yeah, see you next month, guys. Thank you for watching. Peace out.
Bye-bye.